And we're joined in the studio by our good friend Leroy Moore. And good morning, Leroy. How are you?
Good morning. How you doing, Wanda?
I'm good. It's so good to catch up with you. You are just doing so much wonderful programming about disabled, human rights and using art, as a vehicle to, I guess, to enlighten audiences. You had a you did a presentation at UC Berkeley recently at a conference. What was that conference?
Yeah, that was under Sins Invalid, and we did this called Disability Liberated. It was about disability incarceration. So we did the cultural side of that event.
Yeah, yeah. How does it go? Because one doesn't ever think about people with disabilities that are incarcerated. And what about the ADA? Does it stop, once you're incarcerated, or are there ADA requirements around access and making sure that, prison is horrible anyway, but I'm sure it could be really, more heinous than it is if a person is disabled, let's say blind, or has mobility, issues and things, a person can't get access.
Yeah, it should not override the ADA, but prisons and police, they run with a different kind of law. So unfortunately, a lot of times prisons are against the ADA. We had this one artist, Damian Johnson, that became disabled while he was in prison, and he told me stories about crawling to dinner because they didn't have a wheelchair. So the stories are there about raw discrimination against people with disabilities and against people that are deaf in prison.
Wow, wow. Yeah, and this morning, good morning, Mr. Emmitt Thrower. How are you?
I'm okay. Good morning.
Good morning. Leroy, if you want to say hi, you can.
Hey, Emmitt, how you doing?
Hey, Mr. Leroy, how are you? I'm doing good.
Okay.
Yeah. So the two of you are joining us to talk about a project that you're collaborating on, Where is Hope? And I guess I'll start with your introduction, Leroy, since we were speaking. It's Where is Hope is a collaboration between you, Leroy Moore, poet activist, the Black Cripple, founder of Crip Hop Nation. You are a black writer, artist, hip-hop, music lover, community activist, and feminist with a physical disability. You have always been a strong voice in action and words against police brutality, and in particular as it relates to people with disabilities. And then Mr. Emmitt Thrower is a disabled, retired New York City police officer and a stroke survivor. He is the founder and president of Wabi Sabi Productions Incorporated. The organization, Wabi Sabi Productions Incorporated, is a small community-based nonprofit company founded in 2005 in New York City. Its mission is to use the arts to address social issues and develop, the New York City communities and youth in positive ways. Mr. Thrower writes that we have produced theatrical events, musical events, digital films, and short documentaries about issues impacting upon social, political, or health issues affecting underserved communities and youth. And I just want to let audience know that there's this wonderful article in the San Francisco Bayview online. I think is March 27th? Is that the date of it? I'm just doing this from memory right now as I scroll down.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's really wonderful, and people can read it. People can read it online, and it talks about this project. But I wanted you to tell us about what is Hope, Where is Hope, and how did you two meet and collaborate on this this film project, which I believe you said, Leroy, is going to be an episodic.
Yes. Hey, Emmitt, you want to take over and tell that story?
Okay, yeah, I'll tell you a little bit. Well, first of all, I met Leroy guess around 2009 or before 2009, I was doing this play about Katrina, and I had actually a Katrina survivor who was a wheelchair user, and I cast her in the play, and we went to Baltimore to do the show. And so Leroy, contacted me. He found out about it from a press release, and that's kind of how we met. Through that, he wrote articles that helped me get some publicity about that particular play. So Leroy called me, I think it was around in 2009, and he was telling me about this CD mixtape project he was doing around the subject of police brutality and profiling against people with disabilities. And the first question I had asked Leroy was, why is there a problem? I didn't even realize there was a problem of that nature that he was talking about. But I said, if you are going to do this project and we want to reach people, because apparently it may not be enough awareness that there is such a problem and to what degree it is, maybe you ought to think about doing a documentary project along with the CD mixtape. And Leroy said, that's a good idea. I said, I'll help do that, because that's what I was into, theater and film production, video production. And so that's how the concept of the project evolved from that CD mixtape project that Leroy and DJ Quad was co-producing. And so the name of it became Where is Hope? Because, of course, people are wondering, where is the hope when the police, who are supposed to protect and serve us, particularly in this community, who do we reach out to if we can't call them and they're the one who are brutalizing us? And so it's a 4-part series documentary project. And the first part is personal stories. This is from not just the what happened to the victim, but the victims' victims, or the victims who are left holding the bag, holding the sorrow, who deal with the pain, at the end, once their loved ones have been lost or brutalized. So we want to tell that story, because people, you hear in the news, basically you hear a summary, who the person was, what happened, and the news about what's happening with the loved ones, but you never hear about who really is this person, who was this person that was brutalized or killed, and what are the ramifications to the people who remain, friends and family. So that's the perspective we're coming from for the first part of the series.
Wow. Why don't you fill us in, Leroy, of some of the collaborators, because our audience in the San Francisco Bay Area are familiar with Idris Shelley's story and what happened there with regards to the San Francisco Police Department, killing him, and his mother's, tireless work in, setting up the foundation and just sort of keeping his name and what happened to him, in the forefront, because it's continuing to happen, as you write, Mr. Thrower.
Yeah, definitely. Misha is, I can't pronounce her last name, but she's from San Francisco, and like you said, her son, Idris Shelley, was shot and killed at the Sony Metron Theater in San Francisco back in the early 2000s, late 90s. And that case, he was going to the Metron Theater just to relax, and he was there with his girlfriend, and he has mental health disabilities, and he was watching the film and, just got irritated during the movie. So his girlfriend went out and called, San Francisco PD, and the San Francisco PD came in and emptied out the theater, and I just was, was still there, just sitting down, and they ordered him to come forward, and that's what he did, and he had a small pocket knife, And when they thought that they just started shooting, they shot so many bullets that they shot another cop in the butt, and the bullets was just going all around the theater. And at that time, his girlfriend called Misha because Misha was an expert in mental health disability at the time. So Misha was on the phone and heard the bullets, you know, spinning around the theater. So he was murdered by SOPD. And because of that case, Misha and the community rallied up and we protest City Hall and we ordered the SOPD to do mental health training. The first time we ordered that, we thought that it was a go, so, all the protests stopped. And come to find out that they took the money and bought more weapons with the money. So the community with me, sir, came back, protested some more, and had supervisors really carry out the mission of getting training. And because of that case, San Francisco had this training for umpteen years, and now because of budget cuts and everything else, the training has been cut and gutted, and the teeth has been pulled out. So unfortunately, today we still have the same situation of SOPD shooting people with disabilities, and the training is almost not there. So that's the case of Idris Deli.
Right. And then you have another collaborator, a MC out of Los Angeles.
Yeah, DJ Quad. DJ Quad teamed up with Crip Hop. DJ Quad is a hip hop artist with a disability, and he has his own label out of LA, and he teamed up with Crip Hop to do the CD around police brutality against people with disabilities. So he and Crip Hop produced that CD. I think it's the only CD of its kind to deal with police brutality against people with disabilities. We have, major artists like Ice Cube and NWA and, all these hip-hop artists that do a lot of rapping around police brutality, but nobody really did a whole CD or even a song around people with disabilities. So Crip Hop in 2012 with DJ Quad from 5th Battalion out of LA put together this CD that has at least 13 or 14 songs, and it's diverse. We have people from Germany, people from New Mexico, people from the U.S., and also we had Tony Hickman. And Tony Hickman is a young lady from Houston, Texas. So it's not only men. Usually in hip hop, you see only men doing, that kind of work. But we had two women on the CD, Tony Hickman and Lisa Gray Garcia from San Francisco. So that mixtape came out in 2012, and now we're with Emmitt Slower to do a documentary. And matter of fact, Emmitt Slower did one of the music videos. There was a case around a young man with autism that was harassed by police. So we did a music video, and we actually supported that case for a whole year. We went down to Virginia, met the mother, went to a couple of rallies. Emmitt videoed a couple of rallies. So yeah, so this mixtape, it's not just a CD. It's really a platform to educate our community, and that's what the film is going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Thor, you come from a really unique perspective as being, an insider. You are a retired police officer. So I was wondering if you could talk about, having that kind of lens, being, an insider, having multiple places you can enter the conversation as a disabled man, as a former police officer, and, as an artist. I was wondering if you could talk about, sort of being able to have that kind of perspective on disability, people with disabilities' rights, particularly around police brutality. Because you write in your article that disability is glazed over and not recorded in official police reports, nor is the fact, I'm quoting you, adequately represented in the media. The fact that disability is totally absent in most official reports, even though it was a factor in the incident's occurrence, is eye-opening. It informs us that for them, disability doesn't matter, but clearly disability does matter, and our documentary project will make that statement loud and clear. So you talk about, sort of the things that I just mentioned, as well as, sort of how the community of people with disabilities, as you write, have a different experience of brutality than able-bodied community. And also, you bring into the whole idea of disability is not just a physical disability, but, sort of things around race and gender and economic sort of status within the community also add to the unequal place that certain people have in the face of law enforcement.
Okay, Wanda, well, let me just go with the different approaches that I take, particularly because based on my experience as, number one, being a black man, number two, being an artist and with a disability, and being a retired police officer who had the experience of what it's like being in that system. And the system has not changed. The system has only gotten worse as far as what it requires of its police officers that people aren't really aware of. I mean, it's like being in any other profession where unless you are in that profession, you don't know the little intricacies that happen and that go on, what's required of you, and how they indoctrinate you to do what they want you to do for their purposes. And it doesn't always serve the purpose of the community that they're supposed to protect and serve. And as a police officer, I understand that. So when I see these incidents, I look at it and see it from so many different perspectives and try and find a way to bring the awareness of what is really going on. What are the real solutions? Because take for example, the police departments or law enforcement in general, local police, they tend to not really do what the community needs. They do what they need because they are running a business, and they run it like a business. And therefore, the priorities are not the same as what we require in our community. They look at it as a business, and the police officers are basically the soldiers. They are the pawns. They are the expendable ones. They are the ones who are being used to carry out what the system demands. And if they do not do that, then the system has a way of dealing with them. And there's many cases of police officers who can tell you that that's how it is. And they always steer you to the same issues, more training. Well, training's been going on for how many decades, and it has not resolved the issues that need to be resolved, because training is something that they could do in 3 days. You cannot train someone in 3 days, how to recognize and deal properly with all the disabilities and conditions that exist. So therefore, that's not a solution. But they don't require or ask solutions from the community or even from the police officers who are at the street level, who have real answers that they could possibly give, because they don't want that. So once we understand from a perspective of being in the police department and being a former police officer, that the issues that we should be dealing with are not the issues that they say they want to confront, or what they want to utilize to change what they're doing. Secondly, having little or no value is an important issue in what we're doing in the film and what's happening in the streets nationally between the police officers and the community of people with disabilities. Because if you look at it, the community of people with disabilities has all kinds of people, all kinds of races, all kinds of cultures, and all kinds of disabilities. But the perception that a system looks at those people looks at them as having little to no value. So therefore they become targets. And many of them are targets because of their disabilities, because they are in a sense powerless, along with brown and black and brown people, along with people who are living homelessness or poverty. So those are people who are victimized, and a lot of them are people with disabilities. We just fall in all those categories. And so there's a different experience that people with disabilities have as compared to able-bodied people when it comes to police brutality. Now, there are similarities. Yes, there's an abuse, but it's like anything else. There's a pyramid system. There's people who they look at from their perspective as being at the bottom. And people with disabilities, in their view, has even less value than if you're just black or brown or poor or homeless. And so you're not even considered. People with disabilities not even included in the reports. So because they find no need to include that, there's nothing to make them want to change that. There's no uproar about people with disabilities and single out in the media in a way that people really understand that 50% of the people who are killed in these incidents, in police killings, happen with people who have some form of disability. And if they had to deal with that, there's a lot of money involved in trying to deal with that. And I don't believe they know how to deal with that realistically, without it costing them. And they don't want the cost. And they don't want that responsibility. So they just simply ignore it. So there is that difference in that a person with disabilities has to deal with that perception of how they're seen simply because they have a disability. A police officer, many times, they go to the scene, the last thing that comes to their mind is the possibility that this individual has a disability, and should my approach to them and dealing with them change? It's very rarely considered because they're not trained for that, they're not concerned about that. So therefore, we're at higher risk because there's people who can't hear, who have other disabilities, and police officers are taught and trained to give commands. Do this, don't do that, put your hands up, blah, blah, blah. That's how they do. So it's really not a conversation they're having. They're giving commands. And when you don't follow their commands, then they respond in many times very brutal ways. So there is an unequal platform. There is education that needs to happen. There is awareness that needs to happen in our community to bring about the kind of change that could really make a difference. And that's kind of what this film, Where is Hope, this documentary project series is about. It's about a tool that will be utilized in the community by the people in the community with disabilities that can use this to mobilize around, to become aware about, to spread this throughout the community so that we can empower ourselves for change, to become players in how law enforcement deals with us and how the community of people with disabilities can participate in that process. People who may be more qualified to participate to safely and ensure the safety of the people that we're calling the police to come protect and serve or provide a service. So that is what this project is about. That's how, as a police officer, and with so many other ways of coming at this, I relate to it, how eventually we have to find a way to bring the police and the community it serves, the people with disabilities, into some kind of agreement as to how to work with each other so that we can get what we need and they can do their job for what they're paid for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. So, in our closing minutes, why don't you tell our audience how we can help facilitate, this work that that you are producing presently, and how people can find out sort of when and where the screenings are and things like that.
Okay. First and foremost, it's about unifying, about bringing it together, about bringing awareness, and getting everyone involved, because this affects everyone, actually, not just people with disabilities, but we're the community that is even left out of the ones being left out. So we have started a fundraising effort on GoFundMe.com and project/Where Is Hope. Now, if you go there, you'll be able to see all the aspects of what we're doing, and actually the two major incidents or cases we're focusing on was just Lamisha Urizaria, who you did see, who Leroy talked about, Lamisha, and the Idris Steele Foundation, and her tragic story and things that she's going through and what she's doing as activist. So people can go there. They can go to our website, whereishope.com. All the information is there also that can lead you to the GoFundMe or what other things that we're doing in regards to this to keep up to date. You can sign up.
Okay. Leroy, do you have any concluding remarks?
Yeah, I want to thank you, Wanda, for always being there, and I want to thank the San Francisco Bayview newspaper for always printing the stories of what goes on to the Black disabled community. And one more thing about the campaign, like Emmitt says, it's a 4-part series, and it's not made for movie theaters. We are going to take this on the road. It's really about education. So after the first part is done, we're going to sit down with communities from here to New York and everywhere to not only show the film, but to have discussion with our community and say, how can we really think about disability in a new way? And it's really not, reacting to the police, but reacting to our community and how we can keep our community safe. So it's almost going back to the Black Panthers, how we can keep the community safe.
Mm-hmm.
Because we really don't need police if we can, really have that kind of community. So, that's my last, thing to say, is that this film series, documentary, is really for the community. It's not for Hollywood. It's not for media. It's really for the community. And to have 2 Black disabled men leading it, it's really a first of its kind. So once again, thank you, Wanda.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Looking forward to seeing the films, and yeah, thanks so much for letting me know about this project, and it's great speaking to you, Mr. Thrower, about the film project.
Thank you, Wanda. Great speaking with you also. Thank you so very much for having us.
Oh, you're welcome, and looking forward to further conversation about your work, both of you. So please keep me posted.
Certainly will.
And please fund, make a donation, because it really, depends on our community if we're going to do this. So please make a donation.
Yes. All right.
Hier kommt unser Beitrag aus dem Polizeistaat. Bleibt hart, auch wenn es heißt Freistaat Bayern. Ja, hier ist es nicht einmal erlaubt, illegal zu feiern. Wenn Wegelagerer winken und geiern. Bunker dein Beutel, am besten bei deinen Eiern. Im Schwitzkasten der Staatsgewalt, Knie im Kreuz. Ein Staatsvertreter abends zwingt dich auf dem Asphalt. Alsbald im Kastenwagen angeschnallt, ab in die Anstalt. Lehrlich wegen unter 3 Gramm Eigenbedarf. Genau das und nicht der Paff, der sich an den kleinen Kindern zu schaffen macht, macht sie scharf. So wirst du gezwungen, schön brav zu sein. Terroristen lullen dich ein, zu kommen auf jeden Bürger bald ein Bullenschwein. Stärkt bei dir die Rechte der Rechten, die Linken zu lenken, während Deutschland Straßen im Netz der Gewalt versinken.
Already hard on these streets, where's the peace? Living my life while you're giving me grief. From all the gold, what's to serve and protect? Even the civilized gets no respect. Already hard on these streets, where's the peace? Living my life while you're giving me grief. From all the gold, what's to serve and protect? Even the civilized gets no respect.
Now I don't know why the laws wanna sweat me. I'm just another fella living life like it's meant to be. But judging from the color of my skin, they wanna test me. Asking stupid questions, pat searching just to stress me. But I keep it cool, cause I know they wanna handle figures and justifying their reports of why they pull the trigger. And then the media saying that I wanted to pop shots, refusing to drop for cops and reaching for whatnot. It's never surprising all the things that they go through to justify the harassment they giving the folks who work for a living and don't push look for the dough. They say we look alike, so they kicking in dough. But I know that we know what's really happening. To serve and protect is a joke without the laughing. You want the people to show respect for your badges, then show respect for the people and stop the harassment.
Already hard on these streets, where's the peace? Living my life while you're giving me grief. From all the gold, what's to serve and protect? Even the civilized gets no respect. Already hard on these streets, where's the peace? Living my life while you're giving me grief. From all the gold, what's to serve and protect? Even the civilized gets no respect.
Hello from the head, that's what I feel with all my new vomit, still wine, urine and blood. They are full of the blood, but I keep on putting in new fight buck. Cause my brain is buck, and my name is Mud. The block ruined my cops, hollow points, slugs and playing drugs. Where's the love? I'm a crippled bastard, broken thing. My wishes and dreams fall a whole bunch like nothing. It's a never-ending story when the cops start rolling and the kids start running, trying to avoid prison. Start crime from the beatings and the shootings, and the things keep marching cause the system keeps selling. Tired of the marching and the screaming and the yelling, and I want to start fighting motherfuckers.
Already hard on these streets, where's the peace? Living my life while you're giving me grief. From all the gold, what's to serve and protect? Even the civilized gets no respect. Already hard on these streets, where's the peace? Living my life while you're giving me grief. From all the gold, what's to serve and protect? Even the civilized gets no respect.
Oh, this really sucks.
Everyone's well, everyone's fine.
Is everything put away?
Yeah.
I think so. Everything's cool. We're fine. We were probably just meeting or something.
We weren't going that fast.
License and registration, please. Here's my registration card. Have any alcohol or illegal drugs in this car? No, sir. What about your friend? He's a little out of it. Donnie, you feeling alright? You look a little spacey. Just a little nervous, that's all. Nervous? You shouldn't be nervous unless you have something to hide, right? Is there anything you want to tell me? Alright, everyone step out of the car, please. You don't have any drugs in here? You don't mind if I take a look, do you? No. Man, this car's disgusting. You guys are a bunch of animals. I'm just trying to make a living here. I don't know why you gotta make me dig through all this crap. of this?
That's mine.
You don't have any drugs in here?
No.
You don't have to take a look then? If you choose not to cooperate with me, I can't help you. I'll have to arrest you and keep you overnight in a jail cell with some very bad men who would love to do some very bad things to skinny little boys like the two of you. Do you understand your choice? Well. Daryl, this is your bag, which makes this your marijuana. Am I right?
Yeah. But it's just a little bud. It's no big deal.
Since Daryl was kind enough to hold your items in his bag, does any of this belong to you two, miss?
The pipe is mine.
This isn't Amsterdam. In the United States, you're in possession of an illegal and dangerous substance, and I'm gonna have to place you all under arrest. Everyone put your hands on the car, now. Victor 11 going 10-15 3 times, requesting backup. I'm gonna read you your rights now. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law.